today about being submitted and satisfied. Submission has become kind of a dirty word people avoid using in our vocabulary in today's culture. But the truth is that submission to authority, or honoring and respecting authority, develops security in our character. This is why, as parents, we establish authority in an infant's life. We tell the infant when that infant needs to eat. We put it to sleep. We establish what is best for them. As they grow up, we teach our children right from wrong, and we do that with authority. They learn to submit, to honor, to respect the authority, and to do what the authority says. When you do that, you don't have contention. But when you rebel against authority, then there's all kinds of negative actions that happen when we don't honor and respect authority. So when we yield to in submission in every aspect of our life, it builds security, and that security gives you confidence or satisfaction. Why in marriage then can we not see this as a principle? I'll tell you why. Because it has been mistaught and misunderstood. Taking out a few passages of scripture, focusing on those and not applying them in an accurate way. I want to read you from the word. It's in Ephesians 5, and this is the passage that is commonly used, although submission to authority is laced all through the Bible. I would like to stop right now and say this is not just a gender issue. It is not just a message to be taught to women regarding men. However, neither do we avoid teaching women to submit, and especially wives, to the headship or the authority that God has put in her life in marriage as a point of security. With that security, love can flourish and it can flow with both of you, and you'll both be satisfied. But let's look at Ephesians 5, verse 15 and 16, and then I'm going to read verse 21. Very important. The writer here is Paul, writing to the Ephesians church, and he is saying, look carefully how you will walk, not as unwise, but wise. When he talks about our walk, it's how you live your life. Making the best use of your time because the days are evil. And you know that we live in the most evil times that this generation has experienced. Then he goes down to verse 21 and says, submit yourselves one to another out of reverence for Christ. So we're not just talking about women submitting to men, but that we live in submission to each other in all of our relationships, honoring one another. Submission is something that is not avoidable. When you drive on a highway, you submit. You surrender your will to the car who is moving in your lane. You adjust your pace or your speed in order for them to fit in, and many times come in ahead of you. So submission isn't just protecting. Have you ever had a driver that wouldn't let you in when you needed to merge into that traffic and they had to be first? And when that happens, it jeopardizes everybody's life. It puts everybody at risk. But when we yield to one another, considering each other more important than ourselves, and submitting, then we flow in harmony, we flow in peace, and we can thrive together. You will see a few lifted quotes out of our book, When Leaders Live Together, which is what we are teaching from. It says, God is not so concerned with whether you are right or wrong. He looks for a humble, contrite heart, a submitted, surrendered heart to one another and to Him. I was speaking with a young wife recently, and she and her husband just couldn't come into agreement on a decision that they were trying to make together. And she had all of her perfect case. She was like a little lawyer who was presenting a case to her husband, and she had all the right reasons why her way would be the best way for their family. He had all the right reasons why his way would be the best way for their family. They were both seeking to have the best way, but they didn't agree on the path to get to the best way. When I was speaking with her, I did have empathy for her and for her case. But I told her, honey, make a righteous appeal, present your case, because submission never means silenced. That's domination. So when my heart is surrendered, contrite, humble, and submissive, then let's say Larry and I aren't in agreement. I, with that position of a humbled, contrite, surrendered heart, can give him my righteous appeal because I position myself in the place of righteous, being righteous in the way I approach him. It's like how Esther approached her husband. She always said, if it pleases the king. Then she presented her case that was exactly opposite of what the king's law and rule normally would have been. It's the same way in our relationship. Whether you're a man submitting to the heart of a woman, humbling yourself in a contrite way, and then her submitting back to you, because we are to submit to one another, to both be humble and present our case in a submitted way. And here's what submission looks like. This is your perspective. And when you present your perspective to an opposing viewpoint, you place that perspective, let's say, on the table, and you leave it there. Then the one who has the authority in this situation, so if it's in a marriage, which is what we're talking about, you place it on the table. The head of that partnership, that couple, will then choose to take your perspective, or they will choose to listen to it, but choose not to utilize it at this point. Submission is surrendered, that it's okay with you whatever the outcome is. It would be the same in the corporate world. If you present your case to a supervisor or to a boss of something that you are seeing that isn't working in the department, but they see it in a different way, however, you need to let them know, then in a humble, submitted, surrendered heart, you present your case to them, but you don't hang on to it. This is the way it has to be. You present it, you release it, and then they choose if they are going to pick it up, add it to their perspective, and consider what you have presented them in the decision that they will make. It's the headship, or the person in authority. In this case, if it's in your corporate job, it would be whoever has authority over you. They can listen to you and choose to use your input or not listen to you. So just don't fear submission and resist it, because it creates rebellion and creates disharmony, and you cannot thrive as an individual, and you certainly will not thrive in relationships. Humble yourself, surrender your heart, and don't have to be the one to be right. Submit yourself, your ideas, your perspective. It's valuable, it's worth presenting, and then release it. And when you do that, there will be such a contentment and satisfaction in your heart.